meeting here. Good.
This conference will now be recorded.
I had to get on the free Wi-Fi. The staff one didn't seem to let me,
Is it a password issue?
I don't know. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I got
Back
you
up.
covered. Yeah. You never know. I have these in my pocket, and these are on the podium here. Nice.
Okay. I always struggle with that.
All right. It is 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the March 2nd DeSoto City Council meeting to order. Start with roll call, please.
Ritter,
Here.
Lane,
Here.
Daniels,
Here.
Murdoch,
Here.
Michael,
Here.
all are present.
All right, thank you. I would invite you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First thing on the agenda tonight is our consent agenda. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have approval of the minutes from the council meeting of February 16th and approval of pay ordinance number 944. Is there anything anyone wish to remove from the consent agenda for further discussion? Someone ready to make a motion for approval?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as written.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Item 2 is call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not on tonight's agenda. The comments that are listed under call to public may or may not be acted on by the council during this meeting. There's a 4-minute time limit. Does anyone wish to address the council under call to public? Seeing none, we will move on. Item 3, old business. A, consider resolution number 2000 authorizing issuance of $135 million in IRBs and 80% tax abatement for Flint Meadows East and related documents.
And Mayor, as with this action prior, I will have to recuse myself.
Okay,
And I am staying signed into the meeting, but leaving my device here.
all right. Brandon, will you please note that for the minutes?
So noted.
Thank you. Okay,
So, council, given where we left things off the last meeting, we didn't modify the resolutions, but since they are resolutions, if you do want to direct staff to make any revisions to either one of these resolutions, that's within your purview. I know the applicant is here, prepared to make a presentation to you if you like, but my understanding is that the applicant is okay with the 75% tax abatement that was discussed at the last meeting in lieu of the 80%.
all right. I think I've received that correspondence from the applicant. And for me, that kind of addresses the concern I had with helping to maintain a significant or an appropriate level of funding, not a maybe not the best word, a hold harmless level of funding for the school district, based on the spreadsheet that I shared with you all, the calculations that we've made based on current mill levies and projections of student populations of 75%, would put this development in line with tax revenue that would be received from a typical single-family development. So with that, I would this would ease any concerns I would have about that issue related to the incentive request. Any comments from council? Danny, did you have something you wanted to start
Yeah, I
with?
did.
Sure.
I read the letters received by our attorney and the forwarded on to the council and their international building codes that they put down and the reasons why they didn't, because they wanted to do a basic needs of their building out there, and I felt that they needed to go a little bit farther than that with 75%. We have people with 75% doing construction, and that on 3 stories they provide elevators, and they're doing ADA compliances and stuff also that's above and beyond the IBC codes that are more handicap accessible. So therefore, I want to see a 50% tax abatement instead of 75. So that's what I suggest, since they're following the basic needs and construction, and I don't think they really heard some of the concerns that was addressed by this council according to their letters. So that's all I had,
All
Mayor.
right, thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
Kevin, anything?
Well, I'm content with the 75, understanding the building codes. I mean, most contractors are gonna meet those codes, and we have excellent personnel to make sure that they do so, and it does cover all the things that Danny just described. And, you know, and understanding that most apartment buildings on the first floor is usually where you have most handicapped folks in there, and that's where they would have their stuff on the first and partially in the second if they wanted to, per the code. And then the third, you know, second, third floors are usually typically younger folks, and the rent may be a little cheaper, and they're willing to climb them stairs. So I don't have any other issues other than it's written.
Okay, thank you. Rob?
The ADA concerns, I've not had concerns about, because it is in code. There are certain levels of requirements that have to be met that are not just basic bare minimum on those. The only one that I was bringing up, and I brought this up in the housing committee, was the elevators, because while it's not necessary on the 3rd floor, it ends up being a value add for our community and for the complex, but I also understand that they cost, and that elevators aren't cheap to install and to maintain. And so my position on that, and I even said it last week, is I'm fine with 75%. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I even said I'd be fine with 80% if they added some of the value capabilities, because even at 80%, the school district's going to be still able to be made whole, in my opinion, based upon the spreadsheets. So it was one of those ones where if they add something that would be a value above and beyond that has a substantial cost, which has a substantial reason to potentially offset, then I would be open to that.
Okay.
So my position at this point is I'd actually be fine with 80 if they're adding some of the elevators. And it wouldn't necessarily have to be every building, but 75, if they want to go without the elevators, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Because we need the housing now.
Lori?
The ADD concerns are not a big issue with me. I think they're gonna be fine for people to get in, it's gonna be accessible. My big concern is I'm just not really a big fan of these high abatements on residential. This particular development is able to go in and do what it is doing because of the infrastructure that is happening, because of all the industry going around it. So I think they're already getting a lot of incentive just from that. So I'm really just not in full support of 75% abatements.
Okay. Go ahead.
One of the things we've discussed in the housing committee, and it was a big discussion last night, was why incentivize the housing? Why incentivize the residential, especially the multifamily at this point? And one of the things that, and Rick wasn't there last night, but he's stated it before, and part of it is we've been behind on the multifamily and we haven't need to basically kickstart and get the multifamily going in the community, which is why the discussion of would it be built without the incentive or a lower incentive, and the answer is probably yes at some given point in time, but at the same time, we've got the need that's gonna be there, especially as emphasized by Panasonic and some of the other developments that are coming in, that emphasize that we need it in a more immediate time frame, where the but-for becomes, we need it now, and we need it to where they're breaking ground now, to where it is ready to go by the time the plant's open, or by the time there's the employees that are needed for that agency, or for that industry, or for that business, and even not just for Panasonic, but for Engineered Air, who just hired 56 people in the last couple months. Our own employees that are here now need some of the housing as well, to where there will be a time that we are gonna curb back the incentives on the residential and say this is not the time anymore, but the reason for offering and looking at that is to get it going where we have it in a more immediacy timeframe.
Yeah, and that's still my opinion, that the reason we would consider an incentive right now on a residential project such as this, it would be so that we could have it take off now so that it was ready, at the same time frame we would expect that plant to open or some other industry to come.
And Roger's discussion last night, and because you weren't there,
Yeah.
was having these incentives, but if it's because we need it now, making sure that at least some of the future ones would have a roll-off time frame of, if the project's not completed by a date, because we're doing it because we need it now, that then the incentive starts rolling back at that point, because the whole reason we're doing it is we need the housing.
Yeah, and then, then the question becomes, how much do we need now, right? And so what, is 1,035 enough for our immediate needs, and then that maybe would start rolling down, or is it some other number, but, yeah. Those are discussions we need to continue relative to housing and incentives that,
And, Mayor, if I could
Sure.
add, I look at the totality of all the projects that they want to bring in that area. The mixed, and then the single-family dwellings, and all the infrastructure that's going to be put in, and all that stuff, and the good working relationship we have with both parts of their company. So I took all that into my thoughts.
And Danny, I do appreciate your comments that going above and beyond on ADA is a laudable goal, but not unheard in relative to Rob's comments regarding elevators. I mean, it looks like we have a couple different ideas here. I don't know if anybody wanted to take a stab at a motion or see where we are.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2000. We'll start off with the 80% as written.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the resolution 2000 at an 80% abatement, 135 million in IRBs. Do we have a second on that motion? Hearing none, I'm going to say that motion died for lack of a second. Does anyone else want to make any other motion?
I'll make another one to approve resolution number 2000 with a 75% tax abatement for the issuance of $135 million worth of IRBs.
I will second that.
We have a motion to approve resolution 2000 issuance of 135 million IRBs, and a 75% tax abatement for Flint Meadows East. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Daniels,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Hanamichael, Lane,
No.
Murdoch.
No,
motion fails 2-2.
Well, the mayor needs.
Mayor.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry,
Mayor
I
would vote to
apologize.
break
Yeah,
the
Mayor
tie,
Walker, I
that's
apologize.
right.
We have a tie. I apologize.
Yes, I would say yes.
Motion passes 3-2.
All right. Item B, consider resolution 2001 related to issuance of 90,000 or 90 million in IRBs and the 80% tax abatement for Flint Meadows East. Similar discussion, the correspondence indicates the 75% is acceptable to the developer. I'm assuming we all have some similar arguments. Discussion points,
Mine would be the same.
okay? Then I'd say we're probably ready for a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance, or resolution number 2001 related to the issuance of $90 million in IRBs at a 75% tax.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second for item resolution 2001, 90 million in IRBs and 75% abatement. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Daniels,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
No.
Murdoch,
no,
Mayor Walker.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
All right. Item, well, let's get Kevin back. All right. Item 4A, discuss fee recommendation from the DeSoto Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you is a recommendation from the DeSoto Parks and Recreation Advisory Board regarding new plat in lieu of park ground fees. The fee is paid by developers in lieu of the developer providing parkland with the development. The money the money raised for this fee is dedicated to parks and recreation purposes. Each year, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board reviews park fees and makes recommendations to the City Council regarding those fees. In the fall, the Park Board reviewed the park development fees and went through numerous discussions and analysis to bring the fees in line with our neighboring communities. The fees are classified by residential, commercial, and industrial zone districts. In December, the board made a formal recommendation to increase the fees to the commercial and industrial fees from 10 cents per square foot commercial and 7 cents per square foot industrial to 15 cents per square foot for commercial and industrial developments. On page 4 of the agenda item, you will see an analysis provided by staff that looks at 2021 park fees for the residential, commercial, and industrial fees, along with platted fees for our neighboring communities, including Gardner, Leawood, Lenexa, Olathe, and Shawnee. If the fee is approved using those 2021 numbers, the commercial fee increase is would be approximately $370. The increase on the industrial rate would be approximately $1,660, bringing the total estimated increase to $2,030. I have with me today Jay Garvin, our Parks and Recs Director, and Josh, our Chair of the Parks Advisory Board. And Josh is here to review a letter that was in the packet and tell the story of how the Park Board came to their conclusion. Jay and I are here to answer any questions you have about the analysis.
And with me as well is Mary Jo Klein, who's the Vice Chair for the Parks Board too. So thank you for having us. And Mary Jo may want to comment. I don't know if you want to or not, but
We'll see.
yeah. And I'm not going to read. I'm not going to read the letter. I just wanted to. I figure everybody can read on your, own. But just to give background. So in the fall of 2022, we started reviewing fees and associated with parks. And one of the things that stood out is since 2005, these park fees in lieu of parkland haven't been adjusted or modified, specifically in the industrial and the commercial space. After much discussion, we reviewed and deliberated and went back and forth and came to the conclusion that we would propose to City Council to instruct the city staff to look at increasing those industrial and commercial fees to be in line with top tier in the community. I think when we think about our parks, I think of our community spaces and, roads are important and all the critical infrastructure of a city are important, but parks are really an asset of our community. I think that we just need to make sure that we are well poised to go in the future with great parks. We're very fortunate and blessed to have the county's park system nearby, and we have Miller Park and Riverfest Park. And our desire is to ensure that we have a well-funded park escrow fund, which I think is per our city ordinances. We do have a park escrow fund already available, but we have a well-funded park escrow fund that we can use to make major capital improvements on and have those fees ready to take advantage of opportunities as they present, which I'm sure our community is going to grow. It's got a lot of rapid growth coming soon, and we just want to make sure our parks are just poised to be able to take advantage of those opportunities that they present, that we have the capital means to be able to take those opportunities and to build out more gyms and to continue to see the parks in our community just be the asset they are to our whole community. So I think that's in essence, our we just want to offer our support. We realize with the capital improvement projects, parks are always a part of it. We've got projects going on this year, next year. We feel well supported in our community, but this is something that we think would really help our Parks and Rec fund, and just making sure we have those funds available. So any questions for me or staff or anybody on just the process?
Any questions? Mine's more for staff or for Mike.
Okay.
With where we are in the process of the Panasonic project, what impact will this have any impact on the fees?
Yeah, so typically these fees are due when you approve a final plat or a preliminary plat, or you issue a building permit, all of which have already taken place with Panasonic.
Okay.
So they would not apply to
All right.
Panasonic, but would apply to anything from this point forward.
Okay.
And I will say, as the representative of the council to the park board, their discussions on this and deliberations spanned multiple meetings, and were not done lightly or without fact.
Thanks.
And I do commend them for the effort they put into it in the actual discussion deliberations.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to all of you.
Okay. No other questions?
No, thank you,
Okay.
Josh.
Actually, Josh, I'll ask you.
Yeah.
Although I know the answer. Where's this put us in line with other cities around? Because I know that was a part of the discussions you all had as far as.
Right.
And
So
what was kind of your goal with that?
our goal is to be in the top tier, right? I think that, we ended up putting, if we look at it for commercial, I think we said 0.15 on each, right? So Shawnee, and then we're matching Leewood. But really, we're just kind of right in line with the Lenexa as well on the commercial and industrial. We're not proposing any change to the residential. I think that obviously we don't, I think with the need for housing, that's not something we are thinking that would be advised. But for commercial and industrial, it puts us in line with Lenexa, Leewood, Shawnee, so municipalities around us at these fees.
So that did bring up another question then for Mike or staff so on the residential, like on a multifamily, is it per unit then? How does that, or is it, how does that fee get applied to a
Yes, it's
multifamily?
Per unit.
Per door.
Yeah.
Door.
Huh?
Per door.
Per door.
Per door? Okay, gotcha, thank you.
And this would affect the alcohol. Sorry. Or is Alco, because we haven't been about
We have approved, we have not issued building permits, yeah. These are typically, for the most part, due on building permit.
just like excise.
Yeah.
But we didn't change
Oh, we're not
this
changing the
residential, so it doesn't
residential,
affect.
so it doesn't-
It was more just for my curiosity if it was. All right, I think we're ready for, thank you, Josh. Thank you, Mary Jo, for your work on the park board as well. And thank you, Jay, for your presence here tonight. We appreciate seeing you at our meeting.
Don't forget McKenna is.
And is it, McKenna's, is this your first meeting? So welcome to your first council meeting. Ready for a motion?
Oh, Mayor, there's no action need to be taken.
Oh, was it part of the,
So if you just instruct staff to include it in the next fee ordinance, we'll approve
Okay.
it during the fee.
I assumed we were adjusting the fee ordinance, so.
When is the next fee ordinance then?
We can bring
That
it
is
back anytime.
Yeah, we can bring it back at any time, yeah.
I'd say go ahead and bring it back. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Item B, consider bids for exterior step replacement at the DeSoto Community Center.
All right, Mayor and Council, I wasn't just here for fun, so, before we get started, I do want, I can't speak, I want to introduce McKenna Jennings. She started 26th, yeah, I got it right, 26th of January. She was here for a day or two, and then we hauled her to the State Parks and Recreation Conference, and she was able to do some learning and networking. She is unfortunately a graduate of Pittsburgh State. I'm just saying that because that's where Brandon went. We're excited, and I want to thank you guys too for approving her position in the budget for this year. Something we've been wanting for a long time. A couple of things just to touch on that she's been working on. We're going to start a toddler time, where it's pretty obvious what it is, but we're going to provide some, like those little spinners, the little cars, some blocks, some different things we're going to put in the gym. It's kind of geared towards, if mom's at home with little ones, that type of thing to come in. We're going to start off with once a week. If it builds, we'll continue to build with it. The other thing we're going to start is with the senior, the older adult population, trying to get some games. The senior center itself and the Meals on Wheels program during the pandemic pretty much shut down the on-site eating. They were doing almost home delivery stuff. So we're hoping to kind of spur that back on where more people are wanting to come in to eat. So what we're going to try to do is some activities and games and things for them in the mornings just prior to that lunch hour, and try to get them involved in some of those activities. So she's also helping Whitney at this point with planning on the concerts and the movies and the mayor's lighting ceremony and all the different other activities that Whitney's been doing in hopes of kind of learning and being more involved in the future. So just wanted to introduce her a little bit and tell you a little bit about kind of what we have going so far. And thank you again for allowing us to add her to the group. So it's also helped to have a female in the group too, because my unit's all guys, and so it's been a bonus. It's been hard on a couple of them, but they're coming around. So I think it's been good overall. So looking forward to getting some more things going. So all right. Reason I'm here is wanting to replace our steps in the southwest corner of the community center, exterior steps that actually go into the sheriff's substation, also lead to the backside to the gymnasium and the Chamber of Commerce and food pantry. Steps are in pretty bad shape. I don't know if I can say original. Somebody here may know that. So actually spoke with the mayor to begin with his background, and he helped me with some contacts to get in touch with. We sent out 4 bid proposals, received 3 bids. And Bedrock Concrete was the low bid, low bid that was following all the steps that we need to take. So what I'm asking for tonight is to, I've got a suggested motion on the second page, but we'll use Community Center Maintenance Fund monies, which there's $35,000 budgeted in there, to get those steps done through Bedrock for $24,857. And if you have any questions, I can answer.
Questions for Jay?
I'll try to answer.
Is there a time frame on the project?
Yeah, they are,
6 weeks out on schedule?
I think it was 8 to 10. Yeah, 8 to 10. I'm getting confused on who was what. Because there's one company said we can be out there tomorrow, and I was like, interesting. Yeah, 8 to 10 on Bedrock, yes.
I'll make a motion that we accept the low bid from Bedrock Concrete for the Community Center Southwest exterior steps replacement project in an amount not to exceed $24,857, and authorize the city administrator to sign the contract.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Carmichael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Murdock.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Item C, receive update from Clearwave Fiber on construction activities and service plans.
Yes, council, we have representatives from Clearwave approaching the podium. Mayor, with your permission, I'd like to invite Kayla Maxfield to
I just jumped on up here.
Oh,
didn't
yes,
I was
that's
ready.
good.
I've been waiting.
Introduce your team and give the presentation.
You have the
Thank
floor.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much for having us. I'm Kayla Maxfield, the Market Development Manager for the Midwest for Clearwave Fiber. With me, I have Stormy Suprin. He's the Vice President for Kansas. And then Jerry Thompson, the Senior Director of Construction. We also have several in the crowd here showing support. So we appreciate everybody being here. We appreciate your time.
Sure.
I'll go ahead and start. I think we're going to do a quick little presentation because I know that you guys, I have not been able to present to all of you exactly who we are. So I'd love to take this opportunity just to tell you a little bit about who Clearwave Fiber is, and then we're happy to answer any questions, give you some updates, and go forward from there.
Okay.
So we are Clearwave Fiber. We are a telecommunications company offering broadband services, so that's internet and phone for both residential and business services or commercial. You can keep going on the slides. I know.
okay.
Sometimes I put those in there and then I think I'll just keep going. So we were formed in early 2022 from a conglomerate of Hargrave Fiber, Clearwave Communications, and then we also have significant financial backing from Cable One, the Fighter organization, several other entities. So when we do come and invest in your community, we're not asking for any capital funding. We are here and ready to make that investment in order to bring fiber optics to the city of DeSoto. So one thing, we are committed to delivering the most advanced telecommunications network to your community, to your residents and your citizens. That is one thing that we pride ourselves on. We don't manage from afar. We have a local presence right here in Kansas and several communities around. Also with DeSoto, I will say this was part of the RG Fiber acquisition. We actually acquired the assets from RG Fiber. So that is how really Clearwave Fiber was able to make their way into the Kansas market, was by obtaining those assets of fiber from RG Fiber. Couple fun stats on fiber. It is the gold standard. It's the latest and greatest technology. It really, we can provide speeds. A gigabit speed can increase your home's value by 3.1%. Really, fiber optics is the latest and greatest, same download and upload speed, which we know one thing the pandemic did teach us is that a good bandwidth and a good solid connection is more important now than ever, whether you're working from home or the kids are there or just your everyday watching TV, streaming your services, telehealth, any of those things is really important to a community. So And one thing we also pride ourselves on is we really like to be involved in the community. So we have a community relations manager that manages all of our sponsorships. We like to be involved in the Chamber of Commerce. If there's any opportunity for us to sponsor any school events or any downtown events, we really want to have a presence and show that we are committed to the community. So. Here is just a few of the items that we do. It's our communications plan for the residents. So before we start construction, we do door hangers, we'll send some mailings, and that just kind of gives you a rundown of a few things that the community members, the residents will look for. So this is also a slide that I provide to city staff. That way, if they get any calls, they know where to direct any questions or concerns about construction or services. So those are some of just a few little phone numbers and a web link for that. So that's kind of the quick rundown. We can give you a quick update on construction progress as well. We have completed I'll let Jerry go. Jerry knows it all.
Jerry Thompson, Senior Construction Manager. Out of the 270,000 feet that we're gonna build in DeSoto, we're done with 190,000 of it already. There's 9 serving areas in DeSoto. We're through about six and a half. I anticipate we'll be done sometime in April. Depending on weather, things like that, I don't see why we can't be done by late April. We're making good progress. DeSoto's a little difficult to build with a lot of rock that we're trying to get through, but we're making good progress and enjoy being here and bring a little business to the community while we're here and enjoying your restaurants and things like that. And hopefully your citizens will see a benefit of having another provider here to lower their rates. That's something that I've been part of an overbuilder before, and it's really helped the communities.
When do you anticipate starting to make some connections from the new fiber you're putting in?
They already have. I just got a phone call today. Our very first one would be DeSoto 1. I know they were doing an install there today. I don't know how many, but I know we at least got one going in there today.
Okay.
So we get 10 or 15 on the calendar already.
Really? Yeah. Okay. Great. Any questions?
All right, questions from council?
Okay, I'll start with it. First of all, 5 years ago when we started down this path, we were trying to get to the unserved areas first and then to our entire community, and that took a lot longer than anticipated. So I'll start with the positive of, okay, thank you for coming in and actually getting the whole community. Second, this has seemed like it has hit lots of bumps and issues, a lot of complaints about yards being torn up and not remediated properly. I can speak for myself, and I mean even the number of handholds. I can speak for myself. Left in the morning with 5 holes in my yard, came back with 50% to 65% of my front yard, which is a 5-acre lot, trenched. And there's still ruts in my yard. There's still big divots. I have 4 handholds in my yard when I have one neighbor across the street. And I'm not the exception to this. And I'm at the point where it's like, okay, I hope you'll come back. If not, I'll call out to you and say, hey, there's things that still need to be done. There's some big piles of rocks that where they had been distributed are now just big piles.
Right.
But there's been a lot of people reach out to me and through other venues about the quality of remediation, about issues like that. Can you address that?
Certainly. We're not going to leave until we're done. I'm a local resident here, not in DeSoto, but I live in Olathe. All my guys live in this area. We don't plan on leaving a bad taste in your mouth. One thing I do is once we get closer to the end of the project, like we are now, we're putting punch lists together. It doesn't require a citizen to call in and get restoration. We are constantly driving out the area. We're still trying to get construction done. It's a bad time of year to get restoration done. Rocks, anything you need done, we'll be doing a punch list. We do get calls that come in, and we will not leave until we're done. Construction may be done, but we're not going to leave you high and dry with restoration issues. don't ever hesitate to still call into the number. If we haven't gotten to you yet, we can move anybody up to the head of the line, you know, whatever we gotta do. As far as the boxes go and things like that, I don't understand why you'd have 4 on your property. Do you have a large property, or is it a normal size yard?
It's 5 acres.
Okay, that's
Rectangle
pretty
and it's
rare.
but-
I'd have to have someone check into that. We'd be glad to if you want to give us your address. We could see why, but as far as restoration too, we'll take care of that, and we'll get everything filled in, and just, we won't leave until you're satisfied.
And let me add to that, because I've watched this guy work, and he won't. City of Lansing, we went through there, we did it. We're trying to do this very fast, so your disruptive time frame is pretty compressed. And it's a bit of a mess putting that much cable in that quickly. But this guy will make sure every single I is dotted and T is crossed before he leaves. And if not, you can call me. Everybody knows my number. Mike knows my number, everybody. So reach out to me but Jerry he'll take care of it. Yes, there's always problems when you're digging underground with all the rock we got, but you have our commitment that we won't leave your community a mess when we all get done. Right now it is, but we will straighten it out.
The second item would be related to communication. You mentioned 99.9% uptime, but apparently we had a massive outage.
So
Extended outage, and what I heard the most wasn't that we were down, we were down and nobody would communicate with us or tell us what was going on or all of that.
We can sit down and talk about, I will tell you about that outage. We were installing, and an unmarked underground conduit was hit that happened to contain the transport service that we leased from another company to get out of town. And that company that we leased it from came back in, spliced it, didn't do an adequate job, took them days to figure out what they had done, got it spliced together. During that time frame, we made the decision to go out and contract with another provider to bring redundant service into DeSoto. So you'll now have 2 complete redundant paths into town, which wasn't in the plan originally, because most of this underground stuff is so reliable. But since we had this problem, within the next 30 days, you'll have complete dual service out of this town. So if they hit one of them, it won't happen again. You will stay up, it'll continue to operate. Now, I'm not gonna say that you won't go down, because all services at some point fail. But we're mitigating that by bringing another, pretty good size cost to us every month, but we're gonna bring another service provider in here to bring you redundancy.
Like I said, the second part of that I heard was just the lack of communication of
Can you
what was going
elaborate
on.
on that just a little bit, if you would? Just so we understand. I know Mike and
There were
I
no, Rob, I
spoke.
might be able to give a good one. We called your number that you have listed, and first they told us it might be 4 hours. And then, first they said the outage was in Virginia.
Okay.
And we didn't know anything about Virginia. We were worried about us. But, and then said it might be resolved in a few hours, which was likely. But 4 days later, we were still out, and we still couldn't get anybody's answer off the phone.
And some of these were businesses, like I saw my chiropractor today here in town, and he was down that whole time and didn't know when it was coming back, hadn't been given any updates on when it was coming back, or things like that. And businesses, bad enough for homes, and it's worse for those that work from
You gotta
home.
run your business,
And then
right?
businesses,
Well, and that's why we reacted to it like we did, because that was completely unacceptable by our provider to leave us down that long. We were down 2, right? Right, basically, all you guys were down, which means we were down. That's why we went out and did what we did, to bring another provider in here. The communications part, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna find out why your chiropractor and you guys were not communicated with well, because we want to have a local presence, and if we need to do something different on the communication side, on the customer service side, we need to hear that. We need to hear that feedback, and trust me, it'll be part of my report to senior leadership tomorrow. When I talk to them at 9 o'clock in the morning, I already have it on the calendar to talk specifically about this meeting, and they're going to hear exactly what I hear tonight. Don't think for a second that everybody at the top level of this company is not gonna hear exactly what you guys are concerned about.
Well, I called every day for 6 days, and I got the same answers as Rob and the rest of them. And I feel bad that you're a communication company that can't communicate. And you know, we heard other companies, you know, they put stuff out, even though you may have to go somewhere else to use the internet, like I did, and then had to get a hotspot and get that all arranged so I could have some form of communications. And if you guys would put something out there where we could at least know what's going on, because apparently your people, they have a set answer that if we don't know, we'll get back with you. I asked for 4 times to ask for supervisor to talk to me. Maybe I could find out a little bit more. I told him who I was. It meant nothing. And I called Tuesday, no supervisor. Thursday, no supervisor. Friday, no supervisor. Saturday, we were still going up and down. And so we were out a total of 6 days. The only way I found out anything at all was through our city administrator, who did send me some information. And I passed that on to some people that called me. Also, the second thing, we have people out there that before RG Fiber was acquired, they were wanting to go on down Cedar Creek. There's people still unserved out there, and they still want service, and they're in the unserved area, and they have not been asked to be served. They've called in and was told that it would be a while, but that wasn't on your fault. It was back on RG Fiber when they hadn't said they went down that far yet. But they had planned to, so they'd say it would be in the next 2 months, but in between that time, nothing happened, and then you acquired RG. So I don't know if they've called back since you've acquired. We've told them about you, so anyway, but I know there was a lot of confusion and stuff, and I feel sorry about your outage, but I do relish the thought of you trying to rebound with a backup system, so that does make me feel better about your service. But still, the issue of a communication company that can't communicate, so.
Well, and this is the first time we've had an outage like this in Kansas. And I guess I needed to hear how corporate responded to that. Because if I got to bring some of those services to Kansas, some of those people to specialize on the state of Kansas, I'll make that happen. I got to hear this so I know whether they're doing a good job communicating with you guys or not. We'll react to this. We'll figure it out. And we're pretty new here in the state of Kansas. I mean, we just started these builds recently, so we're learning too. There's no doubt about that. And as far as the Cedar Creek, once Jerry's crew is done with what they're planning on building, then it'll be up to my team to go in and say, okay, the Cedar Creek, where we're talking about, if that's a community that I can, what's called edge out builds, if I can edge out to that community and make a business case for it, I'll take that to senior leadership, we'll get it funded, and we'll get them built. Every place that there's a pocket of homes, pocket of multi-dwelling unit, whatever it might be, that'll be my team's job to go out and get funding for those little areas.
Mayor, could I ask one more question?
Sure.
I had 2 questions. Rob brought up the first one. The other one is on multiple occasions I've driven in from multiple ways through town, and it doesn't seem that safety in the construction area seems to be a priority. I'll give you a couple examples. One was on Wyandotte Street that goes across the river. You had your trucks on both sides, some equipment on one side. It was an early evening, low light. Very, very busy street in that time of day, or that time of the evening, and nobody was assisting with trying to get any of the vehicles through their safety, or safely to keep your folks safe or anybody else that was traveling. The second one was just a day or so ago, and it could even been a day. It's been a long day for me. Coming in from Lenexa on 83rd, just east of Corliss. That is a terrible little corner with a hill. And there was one sign about maybe 300 feet down at the bottom of the hill, but your equipment was sticking out, truck was sticking out, and cars were meeting each other, and it just seems that might be better, you know, that you could improve your safety for your, at least for your folks.
Absolutely. We'd heard these complaints before at the very beginning, I implemented a policy, we'd fire somebody right on the spot for violating the issues you're talking about. That didn't seem to work as well as I'd like, but now we implemented a $1,000 fine for each time, and that, I know that it's gotten better. I don't know, the first instance you have, I don't know when that happened, but we
It
instituted
might have
that.
when you got the first call.
Yeah.
The second one was.
Yeah,
like I said,
recently.
The second one was just either yesterday or today, and then down Corliss to the south.
Yeah.
Very, very small road with lots of hills.
Right.
And trucks were all over. And it
We're-
was hard.
We're working on that. I have my engineers here. They are constantly, there's 3 of them that I have stationed here. They're constantly driving around, making sure that doesn't happen. I come up and do spot checks, and I'll be honest with you, 5 minutes into here, I see them downtown, and I see a drill sitting there blocking half the road with nobody around. Immediately got somebody out there. That's when we implemented the $1,000 fine on the spot, and my spot checks I've done lately, I haven't seen anything. I'll let engineers, have you noticed it's gotten any better recently? Or I know you guys are constantly driving that out.
Yeah, they put out more cones for sure. They've been using more cones. They've been issued cones and signs.
Yeah, just in those thin areas, it might benefit to have a couple flaggers
Yeah.
in some of those areas, or maybe a couple more signs at 1,000, 500, whatever typically people do, and,
Okay.
you know, when is directed by state statute or any other regulation.
My name's Derek Seeley. I'm one of the engineers.
Sorry, Derek, if you're, we
Yeah.
need to, at the podium, for the online, for the microphones.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Hi, my name's Derek Seeley. I'm one of the engineers. There's one of the 3 that Jerry was talking about. So all of our crews, they have the stop and slow signs, and there's somebody there if they're on the street at all. And every crew has cones out now, multiple, and they do not leave their equipment abandoned. So if they go to lunch or whatever, their equipment's with them. They are parking in some of the easements, which is tight to the road, but they're staying off the road to try to open up. Now, if it's a country road or anything like that, they're supposed to ask. If they're in a driveway or anything like that, they're asking permission from residents. Or if they have to be in their yard out of the easement, they're getting permission as well. I know that down 83rd, that's also where Zaos or Verizon, that's where they were also working as well too.
You know, I didn't pick a company, didn't know. I just wanted you
Yeah.
to know that I
No,
seen a couple of
we
it.
take-
and
well, we
just want you to be
absolutely
aware.
understand.
Yeah.
So, but we are checking everybody constantly, and then any calls we get from Cameron, Chet, or et cetera, we are trying to get on it immediately. So I know we can't be everywhere at once, but we're trying our best to.
I just don't want you guys struck by a car or.
No, yeah, I understand
We don't
completely.
either.
And then, sorry, on the restoration topic, we're driving through all the areas, and before the node gets turned over, we're making sure that the contractors pick up everything they're supposed to, and if we don't, we're reporting it. So,
And one other to that is, we keep a retainage on our contractors. We keep a certain amount set aside in case they do not perform the restoration to our liking. We'll hire a third party and pay it out of that.
One thing I'll mention is, I can probably speak for everybody, but city staff has been great to work with. They're
Absolutely.
very open to communication, anytime we need anything, and we hope we can reciprocate that, but they've been great to work with.
All right. Any other questions, comments
Yeah.
from council?
You know, a lot of very valid comments have been made, and you know, certainly safety concerns have got to be, you know, priority number 1. So a couple of comments. So I will say I do appreciate the fact that you are hitting it hard and hitting it fast, because yeah, while it's a big mess and there's a lot of turmoil and there's a lot going on, the fact that you are making the financial commitment and the corporate commitment to serve the community and to do it very fast, I think does help to condense the whole time in which, you know, if this transpires over 18 months, people get really upset. If it transpires over 6 months, then you get it and you get it taken care of. And then the other thing I'd like to say is, DeSoto is very, very lucky really in the fact that you've committed to serving the entire city. You know, a lot of carriers will cherry pick neighborhoods, they'll cherry pick areas where the highest revenue or the highest take rates can be obtained. The fact that you're covering the entire city gives our community our citizens a lot of choice and a lot of opportunity, particularly in lower income neighborhoods that may typically not make the cut for a fiber bill. I know that's the case in a lot of cities, so I appreciate that you're doing that for Old Town. On the communication thing, I don't know how I happened onto it, but and it might have been on my account or something, or it might have been on one of my first calls, but I got on a service where I got an email maybe every 4 hours or so. Every time that there was an update put out, I got an email with that information. So there is a system out there, and it might have been on that last slide that you had, that I was getting regular emails through the course of it. Frustrated as all get out, but at least I knew that, Zayo's on this or so-and-so's on that, and I still don't have service, but I was getting probably about every 4 hours an email.
We'll see why that wasn't to everybody. Figure out why that didn't go out, because absolutely there's no
There were
reason.
ones, I mean, was it Friday night that was icy? And there was one that came out after midnight that, said that Zayo wasn't gonna dispatch a crew because of the ice. So, they were even coming out, I was getting emails in the middle of the night. So I appreciate the system, and yeah, obviously it wasn't something that everybody was aware of.
Yeah,
or
we just need to
something
make
like
sure
that.
that we have everybody on, and when they call in, they get the proper response, so,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I was gonna say some similar comments to what you said, Kevin, but probably the most exciting news I heard was that April timeframe to be done.
Right.
Depending on weather.
Right next to my, I think, March 31st install date. So those two dates I got.
There you go.
I am very pleased that you're making the investment in our community. I think I know it's going to benefit us greatly in the long run. And it is a little painful right now. I'm looking forward to it being done, though. But thank you for your hard work.
Pick up the phone and call us if you need us. We'll do everything we can to be good community relations people, so.
Thank you.
Like I started with, this is what we were trying to get 5 years ago.
Sure.
Somebody to come in and actually take care of the whole community, not just sections of it. So while I started with the complaint, and then the complaints I've heard, it is a positive that the whole community's getting access at this point.
Well, one of the reasons that we looked at your community almost first is because Mike told us that, and before we lost him, he told us about that commitment, and we need to get here, and the excitement about you guys wanting to get this done. So, that's why we tried to jump on it right away, because it was a commitment he made.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item D, consider sewer pump purchases for wastewater treatment plant. Chet, I'm assuming this is your item?
No, that's not right. Yeah, no,
I
this is
see, I
fine.
made an assumption.
I still do write memos to the council every once in a while. It's been a while, but, yeah, this is it's actually a relatively, minor first baby step in the expansion of the wastewater treatment plant project. Because of timing issues with when new lines will be extended to Panasonic and Astra and to Flint, there's a possibility that we will need to be able to accommodate wastewater flows from the Flint development before we would otherwise have the treatment plant system or the expanded treatment capacity for Panasonic and for the other areas that'll flow into there. If you have any questions about that, I can answer those. But essentially, what it comes down to is the new sewer line to be extended to that area will be in place before, obviously, we're able to upgrade the treatment plant. So the plan now is for that new sewer line to temporarily connect to a very small pump station that we have existing on the grounds of the wastewater treatment plant. I've got a little layout here that I put in the staff report. So the existing pump station sits here in the southern portion. The headwork building's there in blue. This little pump station just takes flows currently from the operations building. That's it. So a very small pump in there. What we need to do is upgrade that pump, essentially just replace the pump, will give us enough capacity to serve initial phases of the Flint development. What we'll do is we've sized these pumps so that we can remove them when we're done here and actually install them in the Meadows. Those pumps now, one of them is pretty old, so we'll be able to have 2 new ones for Meadows. We'll put one in now and have one on the shelf. It'll slightly increase the capacity there. So with that explanation, Doug received a proposal from EPS, which is our vendor on the Meadows pump stations, for a 10 horsepower pump, 2 of them, for the amount of $25,825, also some mounting hardware and brackets. These pumps are compatible with the control and bracket equipment we have in Meadows, and also the control equipment that we have at the existing small pump station there at the treatment plant. So I'm asking for your approval on that quotation in the amount of $25,825. Funding will come from the initial bond issue that we issued last year for the expansion project.
All right, any questions for Mike?
Do you have any of these pumps priced in on any of these projects to be rebuilt or refurbished before you put them on the shelf so you don't have a failure?
Well, I think what our practice has been is when we put a new pump in, if the old one isn't completely gone, we do send that in for refurb to have it on the shelf. So we've done that at the main lift station.
So that's in the price of this, or?
No,
No.
that rebuild wouldn't be in the price
Okay,
for this.
okay.
This is just the
So
purchase of the.
that comes out of another budget then?
Yeah, it would at the time, if we decided we need to do that, yeah.
Oh, so you don't practice that, right?
Well, I mean, we've done that. This would allow us to have one pump on the shelf, whether that's one of these new ones or a refurbished one that comes out of the Meadow after, in a couple of years. We'll have to make that decision at the time.
Thank you.
Yep.
The ones in the Meadows take a pretty good hit, don't they?
Yeah, they run a lot, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Danny. Anything from the side?
I'll make a motion to authorize city administrators to accept the proposal from EPS in the amount of $25,825 for sewer pumps and wastewater treatment.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Lane?
Yes.
Ritter?
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes.
Murdoch?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
All right. Item E, consider ordinance number 2566, amending city code related to city investment policy.
Yes, council, this item and the next item relate to, back in May of last year, the city entered into a contract with Columbia Capital to take a role in investing the city's idle funds, so moving those funds around to maximize earnings on those funds. So Jeff White is here. Appreciate you sticking around, Jeff, to answer any questions. But essentially, both of these amendments of the city code are to give the city and, in turn, Jeff White and Columbia Capital maximum flexibility in making these investments that take full advantage of our idle funds, meaning funds that we have in the bank but are not, at the present time being used or earmarked for anything. So, Jeff, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Well, the way the smile came on your
Came
face
on
with this,
this
man,
way.
I'm telling you.
It's always a good night when your item follows poop. Nothing to add. So the Kansas, nothing to add, and he keeps talking. We've got 2 main statutes under state law that we invest under. The investment policy basically sort of parrots key provisions out of the state law and then adds some practical implementation of the pieces of state law with sort of how we work with city staff to make sure that the city's funds get invested. The second ordinance especially designates existing funds of the city under the state law that allows us to invest those dollars
in a way that fits the use of the proceeds. So to give you two examples, Patrick mentioned the concept of idle funds. The city has money coming in and coming out every week. Payroll is paid, sales tax dollars come in, accounts payable go out, property tax dollars come in, but there's sort of a static balance that sits there, and it is idle funds. And so we invest that under the main statute, and we're really sort of focused there on, does the city have the funds it needs on a regular basis to pay bills when it needs to? But with respect to bond proceeds or equipment reserves are a great example, or your electric fund, which you use sort of for special projects, but really it's sort of there to provide a little bit of investment horsepower. You're not expecting to spend down any material portion of those dollars within a given year. So we invest that differently than we do money that might be used in the next 2 weeks. Bond proceeds, cities just issued bonds. We have about $17 million of bonds being invested. The day those monies hit your account is the maximum those things are ever going to be, because engineers, contractors start spending those funds relatively quickly. We spend down. So there, we're investing those funds against an expected draw schedule. So again, we're looking at a different approach. So these two actions combined sort of recognize the difference in the approach of the accounts. The update to the investment policy is a little bit of modernization, a little bit of sort of matching actual practice with what's written in the policy. Everything's within those constraints within state law. One more quick comment. One of the things that Kansas law requires with respect to idle funds is that we give local banks first opportunity to take those funds as deposits. That's something that we take very seriously. It is a state law, so we treat it as a law. It's an obligation. And so as we see funds being available for investment for 60 days, we will contact every bank that has a physical presence in your community. We will let them know those funds are available. We give them appropriate time to say, yeah, we're interested, no, we're not. And then the state law prescribes when we're obligated to leave those funds with the local bank, or when we can use other investments, and sometimes banks are interested and sometimes they're not. And so if they're not, then we can go out and look at treasuries, agencies, or the other like 2 or 3 kinds of investments that we have available to us. With that, Mr. Mayor, happy to try to answer any questions.
Any questions from council?
Just comment that obviously this is an evolution of our practice from the fact that as we're changing and growing and we're dealing with more money now, we have a different way of looking at how we're handling cash on hand, and I think that's a great thing.
You had, at the end of January, you had $26 million under management, which is, yeah, big.
Yeah, I'm glad we're evolving with it.
I guess I've just always, as long as we are, and which we have to do by state laws, to give the local banks the option to take up some of those investments, because local banks and those dollars staying local probably help to generate funds for loans for local projects. So I think it's important that we support our local banks as much as we can.
And the statute is nice in the fact that it reflects the fact that sometimes banks want public deposits and sometimes they don't. And we're constantly sort of turning those options over to them. This is not something that like happens once a year and then we never talk to them again. So there's frequent opportunities for a bank to not be interested this month and be very interested next month, and make sure that we're being responsive to that.
But it is your practice to actually contact every bank that has a local presence?
It's the state law, so we absolutely do it on your behalf.
The Kansas Municipal Investment Pool?
Yes.
Is that insured or uninsured?
It is uninsured. The interesting thing about Kansas Municipal Investment Pool is it falls in that second category. I mentioned if the banks don't want the funds or if they can't provide a rate that meets the statutory threshold, we then can look at treasuries, agencies. Kansas Municipal Investment Pool falls into that category. It is not a collateralized or insured pool. It has a strong short-term credit rating. The state's able to invest in a lot of stuff that we can't as a local government. So there are some investments in there that you might be surprised. Corporates and things like that, which are a little bit unusual. The the city, so KMIP is a great vehicle for us to pay our bond debt service payments. In fact, that's the one that the state prefers. So we'll often make funds available to the MIP ahead of the debt service payments, so that it's, you know, a nice fund flow. And I think maybe you all can confirm, do you get some revenues dropped into your KMIP account from the state?
Yeah.
Directly
yeah,
as
it's
well?
not much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it used to be this state revenue sharing, but those have been gone for almost 20 years now. Getting old.
Okay. Someone ready to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2566, amending chapter 1 of the city code to include the revised article 7 related to the city's investment policies.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Murdock,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Carmichael.
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay. Item F, consider ordinance 2567, amending city code related to equipment reserve fund and capital improvement fund.
I think we've kind of covered it. Again, it's ordinance to amend the city code to bring it, update it, make it conducive to the investment opportunities Jeff spoke of.
Okay. Questions from council? Does this have the same, it's a different fund, does it have the same notification requirement or investment opportunity for local banks involved with these funds, or?
It does not require them. The key difference in this change here is it allows us to look a little bit longer. So those idle funds we talked about, the sort of the main policy, the city can only invest out to 2 years. On these accounts, we can actually sort of match the needs of the dollars with the maturity on the investments. That's the primary change on that front.
Okay. Any other questions from council?
I'll make a motion, we approve ordinance 2567, amending Article 8 of the Chapter 1 of the City Code related to equipment reserve and capital improvement funds.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Carmichael,
Yes.
Murdock,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right.
Thanks all.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good job.
Item G, consider resolution 2005 related to eminent domain for 103rd Street Road project.
Mayor, firm I'm associated with had prepared legal descriptions for KDOT, and now that this has come back around as a city ordinance, I'm gonna have to step out for the next
Okay.
2 agenda items.
All right. Brandon, will you please note that for the record?
So noted.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead, Patrick?
Oh, I was just gonna mention, just for obvious reasons, eminent domain has certain steps we have to follow, and what you have before you, the first 2 steps in that process for the 103rd Street Road project, but I think Mike might have more information.
So, you'll recall that our part of the partnership in getting 103rd Street reconstructed is that we've taken on the obligation of acquiring the rights of way for the project, and so the process, we hired Tim Orrick to handle that acquisition process for us. The first thing that occurred was the description, the extents of the rights of way were identified by KDOT's design build team. We then provided that to Tim and his team, and we obtained property cost estimates, value estimates on each parcel, and then those value estimates were used to create an initial offer to the adjacent owners, several tracks along the property will require additional rights of way. So those offers have been made. We hope that neither this resolution or ordinance will be necessary. We hope not to have to go through condemnation proceedings. And typically, we would wait until we've had these negotiations back and forth, and it might be a month or 60 days before we would initiate this process where we've come to an impasse with the negotiations. That has not occurred, so we're still expect that the majority of the property owners will we will be able to negotiate. But in the event we have to condemn, we are up against a construction deadline. KDOT and their design build crew have indicated that in order to get the improvements made in time for Panasonic, they need access to all the rights of way by mid-June. And so working back from that date, there's this resolution, there's mandatory timeframes in there that have to pass before we can take the next step. And so if you work back to that, you come to about the middle of March when these resolutions have to be passed. So that's why they're on the agenda for you tonight. The exhibit to, I guess it's the exhibit to the second item here, does list out, and in the packet there's the legal descriptions, quite a voluminous document there that shows the legal descriptions on each parcel. We're acquiring right-of-way and also temporary construction easements. But this Exhibit A lists the individual properties that will be affected. So we're asking for your, for you to approve both the resolution and the ordinance relating to eminent domain this evening. One other thing I'll notify you of, there are a couple of properties along the corridor that are actually in the county. And so the Board of County Commission will be asked to pass similar resolution and ordinance at their meeting on March 9th. So, I'm sorry, no, it'd be the 16th. Yeah. So that's the background.
Okay.
Again, not the typical process. It is accelerated.
Question?
So the negotiation is with the homeowners as far as the offer, that's still all in play at this point?
Yeah.
And there's none that are expected of this at this point?
Right. Yeah, well, as you know, we've already acquired one parcel, but one at far west. We have no reason to believe that that the negotiations will stall, but in the event they do.
How much are we actually talking into, I mean, there's the legal description, but is it 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet?
Generally,
30
it's
feet?
within 20 feet, 20 or 30 feet maybe. Flint, I think, the Flint property has the most impact, and I think it gets up to around 40 feet of that. So it is just, the strip in front. Some of the there's a few drainage easements that we'll need to acquire that might extend past that.
Okay.
Section 3 mentions the official city newspaper.
The legal record.
You just said newspaper.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Anything else? Somebody ready to make a motion? On resolution number 2005.
Sure, I'll make a motion we approve resolution 2005 as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Murdock.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Ordinance number 2568 related to the previous item.
I'll make a motion we approve ordinance 2568 as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Murdock,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin.
Oh.
Good internet.
Yeah. All right. right, item 5, executive session. We do not have any, correct?
Correct.
So we will go on to advisory reports. City administrator.
Nothing this evening, council.
Okay. City attorney.
Nothing for me. Thank you.
All right, city planner, not here. City engineer, Chet, what's up?
A few things to update the council and mayor on. K10 and Lexington ramps opened today, so that was good. So they've moved traffic to the outside, working on the median, getting those extra left turn lanes in. So they didn't hold their meeting today, so I don't know the exact timing on that, but at least we do have full access at the ramp. So. The wastewater treatment plant, we met with George Butler. We'd approved that contract at the last meeting, and we plan on having that RFQ out for Progressive Design Builders this month. So just kind of heads up in case you hear anything. The water plant, they've finished their 3-day, all right, tomorrow they're gonna finish their 3-day survey, the LiDAR of the entire plant. And then we're meeting with staff for their staff for half a day on Monday to just talk about our needs and concerns and things that they're worried about that may need to occur out there. With that, well, actually with both of them, we may be back periodically before we have the guaranteed maximum price for equipment procurement. So just kind of give the council a heads up that you may hear more contract discussions before the guaranteed maximum price. And then last but not least, the signal at Kill Creek and 83rd. So we kind of have two issues. One has been fixed. We had a component go bad and it kept going into flash. So quite a few residents calls about that. That's been resolved. The mayor's company was kind enough to take traffic counts for us, 24-hour traffic counts. So the next step is to get the equipment in for the cabinet or controller that's there now isn't sophisticated enough to run for the flashing yellow signal head. So that was supposed to be in today. As of close of business, it had not been delivered. So once we have that signal controller, we will install it in the new head and then work with CFS to set up at least 3 timing programs. One for the morning, one for school dismissal, and one for the PM rush hour. So, and then related to that, at our next council meeting, we'll bring an on-call contract for your consideration with Society and Sons to help maintain that system. That's all I have tonight.
Okay, any questions?
Got a question on that. So I'm glad to hear you got both counts as well as going to be doing some programming. But I assume you'll be able to assess now with the ramp open really what is the change in volume or the change in
so that's
impact.
kind of unfortunate. The 24-hour count, of course, it
Was
finishes
just
noon today.
Well,
So
okay,
the ramp
so it was
wasn't
noon
open
to-
yet, so it's.
It ended noon today, right? So you do have a before.
We have a before, so.
Yeah, and which I think will be interesting because, since we've purchased this signal and, I think it's interesting to show the problems that signals create.
Oh, gosh,
right?
yeah.
There has been a lot of problems that the signal has created, and it has not increased traffic performance as is expected in this kind of a situation. I don't know that we've had any crashes reported, but it is certainly not. There have been crashes.
Yeah, there was
reported.
one.
Oh, there was a
I
fairly.
don't know if it was at the signal or
There
it
was
near.
it was at
It
the
was
Y.
in the signal backup.
It was in the signal backup, and that was a fairly significant crash.
Yeah.
So I think it shows that problem, and maybe as we start thinking about what is the long-term volume through there, what is long-term traffic, I think it's time to open up the discussion about the future planning for a roundabout at that intersection, which is one that had been contemplated way back 15 years or so ago with the Lexington.
Back before they were cool.
Well, it was when Arbor Ridge, it was with the approval of Arbor Ridge was a concept for the roundabout at Kill Creek. So anyway, it's just been interesting to watch how the signal is not the solution. But I will be real curious in the week going forward how the dynamic changes with that ramp being open.
And I would anticipate as Panasonic ramps up, that curve's pretty steep on how quickly they're gonna have workers on site. I would be.
Only to the extent though that it's resulting from housing coming from the east.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's gonna be on K-10.
Yeah.
And I think part of the conflict has been, you know, accessibility is either at, well, it's, because it's also gonna affect 95th Street. It's gonna reduce the traffic on 95th Street, which hopefully will help safety concerns there, because, you know, you're either at the Kill Creek exit or you're all the way down to, you know, people are going all the way to Evening Star and doubling back
Yeah,
because of the closure on.
And another complication, is KDOT's gonna have K-10 down to one lane.
Again
All
this
is all
summer.
going
Again
on.
this summer, yeah.
Again.
Redecking the Kill Creek Bridge.
Yeah, yeah.
That one gets it now.
The one for eastbound K-10 over Kill Creek.
Yeah. So that intersection is gonna continue to be a challenge.
Yeah. Right.
So lights have created the challenge and we will need to look long-term, but it seems like the timing of the light in the last short time frame has gotten off from what it was, because it seems like we didn't have near the backups for a long period of time, and now there's substantial backups, and not even at peak times of day that you would expect. So the question is, what's causing that and why?
When the component failed inside the controller, once it was fixed, it went back to just the standard default timing. So those need to be updated. We're with the upgrades. We're also going to install more cameras because it's a video detection. So the mayor and I were talking last night or yesterday that the video detection has some limitations, and that leg of Kill Creek is pretty dark, and I think it's not seeing some of those vehicles in the evening. So
Are the cameras on there now?
there's one on there now, so we're gonna have cameras on every leg, so we're hoping for a dramatic increase in
The two things, like the 24-hour council let us do a synchro analysis that will fit the different traffic patterns, so we can get these multiple programs in there so that it can be a more responsive signal for more times of the day. And then the additional cameras will hopefully eliminate the detection issues that you have sitting. It's a challenge with span wire, because and the other issue is the span wire doesn't allow you to put the camera right where you would like it. You know, you have to set it off to the side on a pole, because if it's on the span wire, it's bouncing up and down where it would be aimed directly at the traffic. So it's less than ideal for video detection, but it's the detection system that's most affordable and most easily deployed in that type of installation. So.
But it's never gonna be a perfect. There's always gonna be some problem.
Fog, light, you know, I mean, it's snow,
Yeah.
I don't, you know, there's
Yeah,
just.
it's not gonna be fine tuned and then just work great.
Silver cars apparently.
silver cars are hard to pick up.
From the time the controller comes in, what type of time frame are we looking?
I've got it on Society's list, so once the equipment's in, I'd be surprised if it's not within a week and a half to 2 weeks.
Okay, so the current timing and current backups will be.
No, we're gonna look at the current timing again,
Okay.
because we went out and actually videoed it today just to see what it was doing. It was hitting 1 minute 15 seconds on every cycle, which is kind of a
Right,
default.
ridiculous, right, not.
Okay. All right.
Less than ideal, but it's a temporary signal that has been there, gonna end up being there a long time, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, even if we come up with a roundabout solution, it's still there until we get that done.
Most likely. All right, what else you got, Ken?
I mean, is there ever the scenario though that if the traffic really isn't on 83rd westbound, can we go back to a stop sign?
Well,
Because what prompted this was the closure of the ramps at Lexington.
Yeah, it did solve the problem
It
we wanted to
solved
solve,
the
which was the
problem for-
backup coming north on Kill Creek. That was the backup we tried to solve, and we
Yeah.
did, but we switched it for a worse.
We
one.
moved it to the other side.
Yeah.
Well, for everyone who complains about roundabouts, this ought to show them that roundabouts really are probably better than stoplights at certain intersections.
There are
free
more
flow.
efficient signal operations than
you know.
what we got there, though.
Yeah.
It's not a fair comparison, but.
Well, I don't know.
I agree, though. I'm not a fan of traffic signals. There, you always end up having to stop when you shouldn't have to. All right,
That was it.
thank you. Assistant City Administrator, what do you got, Brandon?
The only thing is just a reminder about the annual dinner tomorrow at Cedar Valley Falls. Starts at 6 p.m. The dress is business casual.
Okay.
Make sure to bring, I was told by Katie to make sure you bring your cash for the wine pool.
Very well. Danny, anything for the group tonight?
Nothing, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Kevin?
Just want to check, you're aware of the, or maybe water leak on Kill Creek is coming up. I'm good.
Yeah, at this point, we're, if people are in service and it's leaking, they, unfortunately, they're not at the highest priority. You know, we just had a timely discussion of Clear Wave hit another water line right whenever I was headed in, so, and we've got people out of water, so those are the kinds of things that are chewing up some time and move them up to the high priority, so. There are a few leaks out there, but they're, nobody's out of service on those.
I got a call, but I thought you was already.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Rob?
Nothing tonight.
All right. Lori?
Well, my questions were water questions too, twofold. Once, when I went to get a glass of water before I came here, I couldn't get a glass of water out of my sink. So I was not getting, I mean, there was water, but it was barely flowing out.
Okay.
So of course I look at Facebook, because that's where you go get your information. And it had something to do with flushing and all this, so I'm like, oh, well, I don't know if that's it. Of course, I don't know what the issue was, but there was right before I came here, I was having water issues at my house.
I'm not aware of anything. We did hydrant test today.
Right, and
but
so it said that there could be some low flow.
But that was.
Where was the line that was hit as you were coming in? Do you know where that was?
I'm not positive.
If it was in her neighborhood, we'll explain that.
Was there one last night on 83rd Street, do you know? Like at Corliss and 83rd?
I don't think so.
There's just a lot of water there when we came
Okay.
back. But that was last night, so I don't know what the deal is today. I was, didn't bring it up in front of Clearwave because I was hoping that wasn't the issue. But besides that water issue, the breaks and lines and stuff, because I know that happens and, we're gonna get through that. But I had a gentleman come today to see me and shows me a picture of 2 glasses of water. One, of course, which is after he filters it through his house and it's clear, like a bottled water. And the other one, you wouldn't want to drink. And, I don't always know what to say. It's like I couldn't quite get out of him when this was, if this is today, when it is. But, sometimes our water quality doesn't look really like what we want, and I'll admit to that, and I told him that, sometimes I don't like the looks of my water too. At my house, my husband filters everything he drinks, and I don't, but, so, I don't know, I just wanna make sure that, I know we check it, I know it's tested, but, it is a big concern of people that the way the water looks and tastes, even though it's safe, is not what everybody in the community thinks is quality. And not that this is a big discussion tonight unless you have a great answer for me, but it's just something that I think we need to make sure that our citizens know what we have and why it is the way it is, and if we're doing something about it, and if we're not doing something about it, just answers on why it is the way it is.
Yeah, well, top of mind is all these breaks, all from the activity going on. It ranked pretty high on the level of concern with our citizen survey. We saw that in there. And I'm not saying that there's never a systematic issue. We've had those, in the past, whether it's a citywide issue, it's a treatment train issue in the past. Generally, when you have the cloudy water issue, it's a localized thing, and there is an explanation for it. I mean, nobody should be consistently over days and weeks and months have that condition at their house. So if that's something that's occurring, that's something we would definitely want to know about. Certain areas of the system, if it's a low spot in the system and their tap happens to be on the bottom half of the pipe, they might have that issue more times than others. There's just lots of explanations for those. But it's a concern of ours too. And whenever we have someone that has that concern, we're careful about needing to getting their information and figuring out what it is in the system that's causing that. It could be air, it could be a number of things. So, well, you're not alone. I don't know how. I don't have a great answer, but it's something that's at the top of our radar as well.
A lot of times when they flush these hydrants, the testament, if they're on dead ends, they'll
Yeah,
stir up.
yeah.
They'll stir up sediment.
Yeah, we noticed some issues when the Waverly Tower was taken out of commission. It seemed like we got air in the line
Air,
out there.
yeah.
And we've got a temporary solution until that tower comes back in place online. Do you have the address of where that water?
It was in Timber Trail, so I can get it for you though.
Okay, that's probably good enough, Timber Trails.
Not an area you'd expect, I mean, it's newer line.
It's somewhere
newer
down,
line.
I think they live near the end of Primrose, or is it what's the first one?
Primrose.
Primrose. I think they're down at near the end of Primrose. Cause I know the complaint.
Newish lines. Okay, anything else, Lori?
No, I think that's it.
All right.
I spoke my piece on the intersection.
Okay.
Thanks.
Two things, well, one big thing. One of our members is being recognized by his alma mater this weekend. I'd like to congratulate Kevin Hanemichael. He is being inducted into the K-State Engineering Hall of Fame Saturday night, I think, right?
Saturday night.
So congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor.
Exciting.
And, gosh, I forgot the other one, so I'm just ready to leave.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned.
We can't get to
This
talk.
conference is no longer being recorded.
Have a good weekend, Brenda. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, best I can.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's humbling.
Back then, were you the one that designed Aggieville? Been that long ago?
I contributed there.
Is anyone seriously going to like an open